Hey, it's the Love Guru from loveguru.net and horsehealer.net. And I want to talk about higher consciousness today. And I want to tell you a little bit of story because I'm heading to the horse stable or a horse stable today. And I'm just stopping to get some food right now. It's like 10 o'clock and I'm like already hungry for lunch. And while I was driving here, this dog was running wild and there were kids chasing after this dog, and it started to run into the street and the kids were going crazy. And I realized after I passed them, like, what was happening. And, I was asking Spirit, like, should I turn around and help them get this dog? And Spirit was like, no, they're okay now, whatever. Basically, like, they needed to stop running because the dog thought that they were playing. But in any event, the guy behind me, when the dog started running into the street, the guy behind me beeped his horn. And it scared the dog. That's very scary for a dog. And it reminded me of this memory, this experience that I had in the past of how this person was telling me that they hit a deer again because they had hit a deer before. And they knew that I did not approve of this, that this makes me very upset. And that usually my comment is like, well, you weren't paying attention when you were driving. And their comment was like, my car is messed up. I have to get it fixed, or it's in the shop, or whatever they said, because I hit a deer. And basically their upset had to do with their car being dented rather than about the deer and the deer's life. And I had already said something to them the first time they hit the deer because I think it was like the same type of concern. And this goes into a conversation about higher consciousness. And I know that I throw this word around a lot. I sort of question if people really know what this means. And to me, this is something, having a higher level of consciousness was never on my to-do list or to-get list or any of that. It's, to me, I know that some people in the spiritual community seek out higher levels of consciousness. But for me, this was just a side effect of healing myself, of going through the process of healing myself. It's an ongoing process, but you get to certain levels, you reach higher levels of consciousness. And, this person who had hit the deer, and just in general, people, we don't usually hear higher consciousness being talked about in our society. People talk about having higher levels of education and how that's so great. But just because somebody has a higher level of education doesn't mean they have higher levels of consciousness. And usually it's not there at all, basically. I went back to graduate school after 12 years of being out of school and after having done a lot of healing work on myself. And I went back and I was so excited about being in this learning environment again. But even though there was open-mindedness, there was a lot of close-mindedness too, which I know is sort of like, is there open-mindedness or close-mindedness going on there? But it has to do with people not having a higher level of consciousness. Now, what's a higher level of consciousness? When you heal yourself, which is when I talk about it, it has to do with when you're healing your limiting beliefs, you're healing your sabotaging behaviors, you're healing your unhealthy relationship patterns, you're healing your childhood wounds. When you heal those things and you uncover, you release layers of your false self and you connect to your true self, you step into higher levels of consciousness, which means that you are a stronger channel of spirit. Said another way, you're much more connected to your intuition. You get downloads of information all the time. You're able to process through information faster. You're able to process through whatever gunk that you still have that comes up. You're able to process through that really quick. Things that used to take me months or years to get unstuck with, now clear up in a day or in just a few hours. Like, I'm able to sort through my shit much faster. And when you have a higher level of consciousness, you see things in life differently. You have a broader perspective of it. You're able to see it. You're becoming more God-like, which is what is the word? It's not omnipresent. It's an omniscient, like all-knowing. You're able to see things from many perspectives. So, for example, the guy I was talking about that hit the deer, his focus was just on the deer being an inconvenience, the deer coming out of the blue, the deer hitting his car, the deer damaging his car, the money he was going to have to spend in the car, about the car, how the car wasn't perfect anymore. Whereas you get to higher levels of consciousness and you're concerned about, well, what about that deer? And what happened to that deer? Is that deer alive? Is it dead? Was it hurt? Why weren't you paying attention? Like, there's other things that come into play, and you have a greater sensitivity to all beings. So even though, I'm not happy about that deer story, I'd rather not hear things like that, but people tell me all sort of frightful things that they think are just normal or comical. Like, this guy thought that this was comical, that he hit a deer again, which to me, that is horrifying. But I could also understand that his perspective, like, he has a very limited viewpoint of the world and of what's going on around him. And this is a highly educated man, but the consciousness level is not there. So, we can't get mad at people if they don't have that higher level of consciousness. We just recognize it, and you see they're just not operating at the level that you are. And that's where compassion comes into play, and those are parts of you. Everyone's reflecting a portion of us. Like, that's parts of us that are still unconscious. But for the sake of today's video, I just wanted to share that example. I just wanted to talk about higher consciousness again. And how, again, I just really think it's interesting on how, when I was growing up, it was all about education. Get higher education, go to college, go to graduate school, get a good job. And for me, I see myself being pulled into the school system a little bit here and there to help educate kids and, again, raise the consciousness. And for me, that's my goal with corporate, with working with people, with working with children, with working with anybody. It's raising consciousness. It's not about more education. It's about higher levels of consciousness, more awareness. And that's my message for today. I hope you found it helpful. Bye-bye.